Hello! So I'm Kristabel and welcome to my channel. So I've actually decided to start a bit of a blogging series because I get so many questions about, how do you start a blog? How do you make money? What platform do you use? How do you take your photos? And I thought, I'm just going to put it into a series for you all. I'm good like that. I'm going to do a series of maybe 4 videos and I'm going to break it down into starting off, all of the early stuff, logistics stuff, then photography, then maybe working with brands, potentially making money or making it into a bigger thing, and then just some overriding tips, some of the things that I swear by, and I kind of want to include some of the things that I would do today if I was starting a blog. So why blogging? Now, people are always saying that blogging is dead. There are so many articles that hate on bloggers and put us down and what we do, but actually what we're doing is changing the media landscape. We're disrupting things, and it's so important, in a world where we're told what to look like, what to wear, what to do. We've grown up in this way, and we've grown up thinking less of ourselves, and through blogging I can find people who look like me, I can find people who wear things I can afford, I can be inspired, I don't have to feel excluded anymore, and that is such an important thing. You can start a blog, you can share your style, you can showcase makeup that suits your skin tone, and you can inspire someone who maybe wasn't feeling that great about themselves, but they feel better because they've seen you. Obviously speaking, from the perspective of being a full-time blogger, and I know not all of you want to be full-time bloggers, you may want to do it as a hobby, and that is great. I'm just going to speak from this perspective because I feel like you do need to know your worth, and if you do end up working with brands along the way, or you do want to make it into something more, it's good to know what you stand for, what you're happy to do, and to have some structure in place. Another thing, your blog is the only platform that you own. So with Instagram, they're always changing things, they're always changing the algorithm. They changed the colour of the following button the other day, so that confused me. And also Vine came to an end. And if that's your business, someone can just get rid of it. But your blog is the only thing that's going to remain. So yeah, I'm sticking up for the bloggers. Yeah. The first thing to do if you're completely starting from scratch is to just have a little bit of a brainstorm. So maybe have a spider diagram, a bit old school. Put if you've got a name in mind, put it down and just think of what you want it to represent. You're going to have a niche, you're going to specialise in maybe, travel if you're left-handed. Okay, that's pretty niche. It can be beneficial to have something quite specific, or it can be nice to have something quite broad, but attach your personality to each aspect. I called it I Want You to Know because of a song by Charlotte Hatherley. So I just thought, yeah, that's a good name for a blog. It's quite broad. It means I can write about fashion, travel, lifestyle, whatever. And it's quite ambiguous, and I like ambiguous things. I know some people will call their blogs fashion something or something and something. And I think it's tricky, unless you were the first person to do it, I'd probably try and shy away from it now. Sorry, apologies if you've done that, but I think it's good to think out of the box a little bit. So I would brainstorm a couple of names, maybe run it by some friends or trusted people. I didn't have a mission statement when I started. I've just had to look at everything and think, what was I trying to get across? And basically my message is about celebrating individuality. Obviously I'm being myself, it's the only thing I can do, but it's about, not trying to fit in necessarily. Sometimes some trends look a bit weird on me, and I will talk about that. I like to think I'm very honest. I never want anyone to feel bad about themselves. And when I'm traveling, I want to try local food, I want to learn about the culture. When it comes to beauty, I'm a bit of a noob, but I want to get that across and, just make people feel a bit better about themselves in a way and document the journey I'm going on. My blog, I Want You to Know, is about making the most of life, but accepting that there may be hiccups along the way, and that's okay. Yeah, just get brainstorming and maybe just come up with a line that summarises everything that your blog will be about. If you're starting a blog, make sure you Google it and check that nothing else has the same name, there's no confusion, because even if your blog is a hobby, it could get bigger and bigger, and then you may have to change it. There could be a trademark against a brand that has a similar name, so that's really important. I would also make sure that you secure consistent Twitter handles. So my friend Carrie of Wish Wish Wish, she's literally got the same name, Twitter, Instagram. It's just so beneficial to have the same handles, especially on Twitter and Instagram, because when you post something from Instagram to Twitter, sometimes if you're using an external app, it will send it directly, and you want the names to be consistent. You don't want to be tagging some random man. Yeah, I would say that's very important. So if you've got a couple of names in mind, I would do the search, make sure everything's, consistent, no one's going to take anything, and yeah, you're good to go really. And I would also recommend starting off with a domain. So it means just having your blog, like my blog used to be I want you to know it.blogspot.com, and my blog, it was meant to have an it, and people would put the it in, and I got a bit aggro. So I would just make sure you buy your domain so that people see it as the blog that it's meant to be. Another thing that's really important is branding. Now, it may seem a bit scary to think of your blog as a brand, but it kind of is, like by accident. By putting something on the internet with a logo, a color palette, there may be an illustration, you're actually creating a bit of a brand for yourself. And it's just so important to have a bit of thought behind it. If everything is looking if everything is looking tip-top and professional, then you're just in a better position. A strong logo and colour palette can conjure up emotion, association, positioning. So, you know, Harrods looks a bit different to Primark, you know? Think of something like Apple and Anthropology, like they're completely different, but you know, Apple's quite modern, it's just an apple, you don't often see the word apple. If you think about Anthropology, the logo, you know, it's a bit of an older looking font, the brand is quite bohemian, so it fits into that. So I think the best thing is to gather inspiration, look anywhere from magazines to art to films to, you know, traditional advertising, books, whatever you can get your hands on. Like maybe even look at your own photos. You know, if there's a certain color that comes up, maybe there's a lot of blue, that could be something that you incorporate into your design. So I would definitely create a secret Pinterest board and just get brainstorming. I would maybe look at other blogs, but keep it to a minimum so you don't get too clouded by what everyone else is doing. I worked with a graphic designer, so I came up with lots of inspiration. I said what I wanted and I gave it to her, and she came up with my design, which was amazing because I just wanted to get the best design that I possibly could. I'm a bit of a control freak. So I would really recommend this book. This book is called How to Style Your Brand by Fiona Humberston. And there's just so much information on what makes a distinctive brand identity. There's lots of examples, there's worksheets, and loads of useful resources that will help you brainstorm. It's really handy if you're designing it yourself or outsourcing, and it just goes over all the basics just in case you're new to elements of graphic design. So once you have your colour palette sorted, you need to think about a platform. So the main platforms I think are Blogger, WordPress, I think there's Typepad, Squarespace, some people use Tumblr. It's best to research all of the platforms and see what might work for you. So maybe go on your favourite blogs, try and work out what they use. You may be able to inspect Element if you right click, or you can just ask them on Twitter. So I would do that. So I'm going to talk about Blogger and WordPress because they're the platforms I've used extensively. I literally started on Blogger about, it was almost 8 years ago. I think over 8 years ago, I was sort of aware of Blogger, and it was just very easy to figure out. Back then, I got a basic template and just customized it, and there's, you know, widgets that you can move around. You can just start in like an hour basically. But then as time progressed, I realized that I was missing out on certain functionality. I was getting frustrated. Like with my previous redesign, I wanted to do things and my developer said they weren't possible, and I was just so frustrated. But I kind of like persevered, and then I realized that most people are on WordPress. A lot of, you know, business websites are on WordPress, a lot of media platforms use it, and I just thought, you know, if I want to be treated seriously, I need to be using it too. Blogger can be useful because it's linked to Google, so in terms of SEO, that's quite useful. You know, when it comes to Google, you just never know what they're going to do. You never know if they're just going to get rid of Blogger and your whole blog is going to disappear. At least with WordPress, you know, self-hosted WordPress, you buy the hosting, you own it. With Blogger, you know, Google is part of a bigger business and Blogger isn't their main focus, so you just never know what they're going to do. So I moved to WordPress in May 2016. So I did pay a developer to work on my site because I just didn't want to mess it up. I didn't want to delete the whole site by accident. I didn't want it to be broken. So, you know, you don't have to do that. You can buy ready-made templates if you want. My developer, it's Pinkpot. I think she's at, it's pinkpot.com. You can buy templates from her. Also someone called Gatto. There's a few people online. There's just so much potential, but it can seem a bit overwhelming and complicated. So if you are going to do it yourself, I'd maybe recommend getting some books. If you can't pay a developer to create a brand spanking new site, then maybe buy a template and get them to tweak certain bits. You can get templates for like maybe £40. but then you do run the risk of everyone using it, so just think very carefully. So you have to pay for hosting. I'm currently using Pixel Internet. I'm still quite new to them. They've been good so far in terms of support. I think they have 24-hour support. I can leave a link in the description box. I think I might even have a discount code, I'm not totally sure. I know people who've used Bluehost, but bear in mind that they're based in America, so if you're in the UK and the pound is just not great at the moment. If you are using companies from abroad, you just have to bear in mind the currency fluctuations. Like, there's so much to think about, there's so much to invest in. I mean, it might seem like I'm down on WordPress, but I actually love it. Like, the plugins are amazing. There's a plugin for everything. There's Yoast SEO, which is great because you can change the meta descriptions on each post. I've realised that I haven't explained SEO. So SEO is search engine optimization. So it means that when you type something into Google, say Amsterdam blog, hopefully it will come up with my blog because I've optimized it. Also, the app is loads better than the Blogger app. So I can add links when I'm on the move. So sometimes I might put the pictures in when I'm on desktop. I might fill it in when I'm on the tube. I could be writing it anywhere and I can put the links in. I can schedule it. And it's got all of the same functionality that you would just get online. So I find it a lot more easier to insert images. There's also a great calendar plugin, so I can have a bit of a content calendar and like see how things look in the calendar. It just means that anything is possible and I don't have to compromise. So next, content. It's important to have some content pillars, so whether you're writing about just fashion or fashion, beauty, lifestyle, travel, food, London. Basically that's what I write about. I write about all the things. Like with blogging, I think it's just best to get started and maybe do an introduction post and then just go straight into it. My first post was about a vintage clothing sale in Wembley and it had the tiniest pictures. Like, I did not even think about the pictures, and so much text. And I didn't edit the text or anything. It was just so rubbish. But, you know, I didn't really promote that post so much, but I just kept writing, you know, a few more posts, and then I thought I'll comment on other blogs. So that's what I did back in 2008. I think now it's a little bit different. You're probably using Twitter to promote your posts, maybe Instagram, you're using hashtags, utilizing SEO. You probably still comment on blogs, but it's part of a bigger strategy. I've got a massive Google Doc with just word vomit basically, and just sometimes I get ideas on the bus. Those notes go on my phone. Sometimes I write things down. I use my bullet journal, or like I have another notebook that is more like streams of consciousness. So I have like 4 different things that I'm putting things on. I like to keep a lot of things digital because then I can just view them across devices. So I'll always have ideas, and then things will come up like trips or projects and I just have to slot them in. And sometimes just being around cool, inspiring things will just conjure up content. Once I had a really bad spell and I actually went to Stylist Live, this was last year, and just listening to loads of inspiring talks just gave me ideas, and then I was like, aha, I must write. So yeah, it's very rare that I get like, I don't know, that I have nothing to write about. Like, there's always something, always. In terms of organisation, I can be a little bit all over the place. Like, I've got Google Docs, I've got my iPhone notes, I've got my bullet journal. I'll put everything in my massive Google Doc and just think, okay, what can I do this month? I break it down, I think, what photos do I need? How am I going to structure the post? Is there anything else I need to research? Do I need to read anything? And then I think, okay, maybe I can do it this month. And then I'll plan it in. So ideally I would do things in batches. So I would do, if I was taking lots of still life photography at home, I would have a day and I would do all of that. I would do all the flat lays, I'd have everything ready. I'd do Instagram images. I would make sure the light was good. I would start early. I say this is ideal, like this rarely ever happens. Sometimes, you know, I say I want to have days where I write everything in one day. Sometimes I have days where I have to do everything all in one day, like the photography, the editing, the writing. It's a lot easier when you're in the same frame of mind, like in an editing frame of mind, and you just keep editing, and that is your day of editing. And then you have a writing day. But, you know, other people work differently. You just have to try things out and just see what works for you. You know, that's the beauty of it all. We all do things differently. I think the main thing I want to get across is that when I started, I had no expectations. And I think that's the best way to be, because anything that happens afterwards is a bonus. So that's everything for this video. Let me know what you think. Like, leave any questions in the comments if I haven't gone into enough detail. And let me know if you want me to cover anything in the future videos about photography, working with brands, and, you know, just general blog goodness. But I hope these tips were useful, whether you're a new blogger just starting out, or whether you've been doing it for a while and you just want to, you know, mix things up a little bit, or just see how another blogger works. I'd love to know how you work as well. Do you have a system? Do you have like an amazing system that I need to know about? Just tell me, like, help me out. So this week I'm doing a week of videos, so make sure you're subscribed for that. I'm doing a giveaway at the end, and I'd love for one of you to win. It would also be great if you could give me a thumbs up, let me know what you liked in the comments, and it would make my day. As always, thank you for watching, and I will see you soon. Bye! For bloggers, it's a little bit different, I think, because we go there to sort of build the relationships with the PR that will hopefully get us work in the coming year. It's also useful for us to see the collections.